he do that thing? You know, that little shaking thing? While he was, you know.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
Inland Empire is written and directed by David Lynch, and it stars Laura Dern as an actress that lands a huge role and becomes massively successful. And just from that summary alone makes it sound incredibly conventional, but I promise you it is the furthest thing from that. And I know you guys have probably noticed that I'm wearing a new shirt. My awesome friend Perry from the group reviews actually got me the shirt for my birthday. It's a Holy Mountain shirt. I absolutely love that film. I love this shot. I think it's one of the most beautiful shots ever put to film. Thank you so much, Perry. I love this shirt, and I'm going to wear it a lot. And also, obviously, I have the Inland Empire Blu-ray right here, but I just want you guys to know that's actually not my Blu-ray. That's my cousin Eric's Blu-ray, also from the group reviews. So huge shout out to Eric for letting me borrow the film so I can give you guys a review. Okay, with all that shit out of the way, David Lynch is a filmmaker that I'm kind of already pretty accustomed to. But to be honest, the last time that I've seen a David Lynch film, it's probably been like 2 years by this point. The last David Lynch film that I saw was Blue Velvet, and I obviously really enjoyed that film. I wasn't in love with it when I saw it, but with time it's really grown on me, and I've been dying to give it a second viewing. But the first David Lynch film that I actually saw was Mulholland Drive, and I absolutely love that film. Obviously, I own it. Also, Eric bought that for me, I believe for Christmas, so another... Thanks, Eric. He just buys all my shit. All my friends buy me shit. I feel lucky as fuck. And after I watched Mulholland Drive, I watched Eraserhead, and I obviously really enjoyed that film too. Even though both of those films have a kind of frustrating, perplexing nature to it, I felt like I had a grip on most of what it was going for. So with there being a 2-year gap since my last David Lynch film, I was obviously incredibly eager to watch Inland Empire. And guys, after watching it, David Lynch is just something else, man. Like, I gotta give the guy credit for just doing him all the time. Like, this is like Mulholland Drive and Eraserhead were kind of perplexing for most people. Inland Empire just does not give a shit if you understand it. It just wants to do what it wants to do. And whether or not, people hate it or love it, you gotta respect the guy to some degree for just not giving a shit, but also giving you something to walk away from and think about, despite it being perhaps an incredibly frustrating experience at times. Let me go ahead and talk about Laura Dern real quick. Let's go ahead and get that right out of the way. Laura Dern, I haven't really seen her in much film. The only thing I can really remember seeing her in is Jurassic Park and maybe something else, but her performance and her dedication to this film and its content is staggering. And that's another person that's involved in this film that I just have to give mad props and lots of admiration and respect for, because I feel like she really knocked this role out of the park in terms of what David Lynch demanded out of her. And wow, just a really impressive performance. And she just really sold this character. And yeah, just mad props to her. Honestly, mad props to all the actors involved in this film, because they all really sold themselves in this incredibly surreal and sinister David Lynch world. And they all just gave it their absolute best. And, without all these incredibly intriguing and really weird performances, David Lynch's surrealistic style wouldn't able to be this convincing. But enough about the actors. Let's just go ahead and talk about David Lynch and the way that he decides to shoot this film. So the majority of this film to me seems like it's filmed on kind of like a normal handheld camera. And at first you're kind of like why? Why did you choose this? Like, I just didn't see like what the point of that was. But once, maybe after the first 20 minutes or so, the film starts going down this rabbit hole, and then you start realizing how purposeful and how useful this technique actually favors the film. Because this film just gets incredibly wacky and surreal. Like, to the point where for the majority of the film, you're really just unsure whether or not anything you're watching is actually real, like in terms of the film's atmosphere and the film's world. You really just don't know what to make of a lot of the stuff that happens in the meat of this film. I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel like I have a lot of thematic grip in terms of what it was trying to say about Hollywood and environmental influence that it has on people in Hollywood, and just overall people who have celebrity status, and how, again, the industry can kind of manufacture this consent to people that, you know, it's kind of hard to blame them when they make these big mistakes, because just the environment and the bubble they're in just pressures them to do certain things in this really kind of subliminal but not so subtle way. But in terms of its approach to conveying a narrative of some kind, it is the most unconventional way that I've probably ever seen. I mean, it has to be at least top 5, but yeah, this film is insanely unconventional. I have never seen a film like this, but one thing that I'll say about it is that it is incredibly immersive and atmospherical, because when I was watching this film, I genuinely felt like I went through a portal into a whole different world for 3 hours. By the way, 3-hour movie. I don't know if exactly 3 hours, but it's definitely damn near close to 3 hours. But honestly, the runtime didn't really bother me. What bothered me was that I didn't quite understand, as I was watching it, some of the stuff, and especially the way that the third act wraps up. It wasn't the most gratifying experience, because you don't really feel like you have a grip on either half or sometimes even most of the things that it's trying to convey, mostly in terms of narrative, but sometimes also in terms of theme. And I totally understand that that's definitely what David Lynch is going for. He wants to confuse you. He wants to frustrate you. He doesn't really want you to understand what's going on at all, for the most part. He just wants to test the audience's patience as he's just doing whatever the hell he wants, and he's just really forcing everybody to roll with his vision. And, you know, some people would, you know, see that as a bad thing, and I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing, you know, because I'm glad that this film exists. So in a world that, you know, is supposed to respect art for what it is, this film existing is something that we need to cherish, because it's just so visionary and it's so out there. But, you know, on the flip side, I can't recommend this film to most people. And that's really frustrating for me to say, because, again, I do think that, you know, it's worth my time, because the experience was just so incredibly surreal and immersive and atmospherical, and also, you know, conveying a lot of themes in a really sinister and dark way. But I just can't recommend this to most people. I mean, the only people that I can really recommend this film to is like hardcore film lovers and David Lynch fans. That's really it, because I can't see anybody else enjoying this film in the slightest. They would just be absolutely pissed off within the first 35, 40 minutes, maybe even earlier. I don't know, but I can see this film really, like, if you want to piss off, if you really want to piss off a casual moviegoer, recommend them this film and don't give them any kind of build up to it. To say, yeah, watch it, it's a good movie. They're going to hate you, because this film just does not give a shit about you or anybody. It's a film that says, I'm going to do everything the way I want to do it, and you can either roll with it or not, but here it is. But, you know, like my man Refn says, art is about reaction. And this film definitely sat with me for a very long time, made me think about it a lot, and definitely got some reactions out of me overall. So, I mean, I have to give a film like this mad props and mad respect, because either way, you know, it does what I love about film the most. It makes you think, and it definitely gets a reaction out of you. And what the film wants to do, it's absolutely batshit, but it's also incredibly impressive. I mean, the camera work, I believe David Lynch did his own camera work in this film. He actually held the camera and operated it, I believe. You know, it's really impressive, because the transitions in between segments that you're following Laura Dern through this entire like multiverse type Shadow Realm thing, you know, every time it moves on to a new segment, there's some sort of odd transition that Lynch kind of does to kind of bridge everything together. And it kind of gives the film a more like you're on this insane batshit journey with the character. And again, that's why it was so immersive and so impressive. So even if it was kind of frustrating, confusing, and perplexing at times, there was still so much of this film that I found to be really impressive. And, you know, even though it was perplexing, I feel like, again, like I was trying to state earlier, I feel like I do have, you know, more or less a thematic grip on what this film was trying to do in terms of conveyance of the character before it goes into this crazy shadow realm experience. I want to do a quick scene analysis. This is not something that I normally do in my reviews, but there is a particular scene that involves Laura Dern's character before all the batshit stuff starts happening that I really kind of wanted to touch on and try to interpret. So if you don't want this film spoiled for you in any way, like in any way, shape, or form, here's your warning. Spoiler warning, it's gonna happen in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So about 15 minutes in, we get a scene where Laura Dern's character is sitting with her acting partner, the director, and the producer, and they're rehearsing one of the more important scenes of the film that they got casted in. And this is one of the film where Laura Dern gives an exceptional rehearsal performance. She really knocks it out of the park, and she even sheds some real tears there, and you could tell that this was an incredibly well done script reading. They hear a scuffle in the back room of the studio. Her acting partner goes to investigate, and he tries to open these doors, but we realize that they're just real fake doors.
Get on down to real fake doors!
And then later on in the film, I believe maybe about 15 more minutes later, it's revealed that what was the scuffle in the back studio was actually Laura Dern's character herself, and we can see her staring at herself through all the studio equipment, and then she eventually gets trapped inside of this multiverse realm. To me, this was the moment where her original inner self officially got separated from her new self. Because during that script reading, that's when she fully begins to embody this new role that she's doing for the script and for her future film. And on top of that, this also sets an important marker to where her success and her fame is going to skyrocket from this point. So this is the point where her original identity starts to separate itself from her new successful self. And infidelity also has a caveat in all this, but I'm not gonna go that deep right now because that's like a whole nother rabbit hole. But that's just the way I interpreted that. I'm not sure how everyone else is really looking at this and really analyzing it, but that's just, like, by the end of the film, that's just kind of what I got from that scene. But anyways, I found Inland Empire to be quite the psychological experience that I never knew I wanted. But at the same time, I can't stress enough that this is one of the most unconventional films I've ever seen in terms of both theme and narrative. And I can't recommend this film to anybody except for dedicated film lovers and hardcore Lynch fans. But that being said, there are a lot of objectively impressive things about this film that I think most film lovers can at least agree on. So I'm going to give David Lynch's Inland Empire a 7.5 out of 10.
Give it a chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion.
But yeah, this film was something else. I don't think I've really ever seen anything quite like it. So again, I have to respect it at least for that. There's a lot of things to appreciate out of it. So David Lynch, you done did it again, and it's probably the most perplexing film in your entire catalog, so congratulations, bud, because I know that's probably what you were going for. Anyways, thank you so much for hearing what I had to say about Inland Empire. If you really enjoyed my thoughts on it, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.